Hey, so thanks for watching this video where I'm going to go over our spreadsheet that we put together showing what does it take to win in this crazy Denver market that we're in right now. And so this will show all of our clients, whether they're buyers or sellers, and I'm going to go over the different columns and explain what it all means. This is all to help you make an informed decision of whether you feel like now is the right time to buy and what to expect on what it'll take to actually compete against all the other buyers and win. I'll start by saying we also represent sellers in the Fort Collins, Northern Colorado area, and this list doesn't include that. And also this list does not include new construction, because with new construction, you don't have to make crazy offers over asking price or appraisal gaps. You might have to wait for lots to be released, and so you can pick one and you're just subjected to whatever pricing it is right then and there if you still want to move forward with that, but it's not the craziness like you see in the normal market. So here we have only 2021. We do have one that closed in early January that we included that went under contract in December, but otherwise all of these are things that went under contract in 2021. So obviously here we have the month that the offer was made. We included the address as well, so you can get an idea of what kind of property it is, where it is. You could even look these up online and get more details about thinking why it went for the price that it did. So we have the city, the property type, that's important. Some types of properties are more competitive than others, although these days we're seeing crazy competition with everything right now. The asking price, the winning price. What that means is in the offer, how much did they offer as part of the purchase price? One thing to consider is that, let's use this first one as an example. If the asking price is $5,099, you could offer $1 million. What'll happen if you're getting financing and if it's subject to an appraisal is that it's not going to appraise for $1 million. And so we're back to the drawing board on negotiations. And that's why you'll see when I get to this point, it's our clients will also offer what's called an appraisal gap to close the gap, or come up with a certain amount of money, pre-agree to that, a certain amount of money where a buyer is willing to pay X amount of dollars over the appraisal up to the purchase price. And right now in this market, appraisal gaps are significantly what's winning these crazy bids. It doesn't always close for this winning price, but you'll see sometimes, a lot of times it does. So asking price is $5,099. Multiple offers, actually 4 offers came in on this property, and the winning offer offered $540,000. And one of the reasons it was the winning offer is because they guaranteed and agreed up front to close the gap completely. They are closing for $540,000, whether it appraises for $509,900, $541,000. If it ever appraises for more than the purchase price, no buyer has to pay over the purchase price. But in this case, they did agree to close that gap 100% of it. So the next column here is escalation. What that means is, like, we advise clients sometimes if a seller is open to escalation clauses, our client's going to offer the asking price, but the buyer will offer to raise the purchase price by X amount of dollars over the highest offer on the table. So if you want to leave it open-ended, you might say, okay, the buyer is offering $5,099 and guarantees to beat any other offer by $2,000 with no limit. What in reality happens is you could leave it totally open-ended like that, and then the seller's agent will give me a call or us a call and say, okay, there was another offer for $540,000. Does that mean your client's going to sign an amend, extend, or a counter proposal right now for $542,000? And then I get to go back to my buyer, or we get to go back to our buyer and say, okay, the highest offer is $540,000. Do you want to beat it by $2,000, or is that too much for you? And they can make the educated decision and essentially have the first right of refusal to beat any other offer on the table. But some sellers don't like that game, and so we'll always ask up front, hey, how does your seller client feel about escalation clauses? And we'll advise you based on what they say. So that's why you'll see oftentimes there's not escalation clauses, but if the seller is open to it, I always recommend it. Another thing you could do, I should add, is that you might also say, you know what, I don't want to waste anybody's time. There's no way I would pay over $535 for the property. And so what you could do is put an escalation clause. We'll beat any other offer by $2,000 up to $535,000. And if there's an offer for, let's say, $520, you're kind of pre-agreeing to pay $522 for the property. If there's an offer for $534, you're agreeing to pay $535, because remember, it's up to that number that you decide. But I just recommend leaving it totally open-ended and at least have a shot at beating the highest offer on the table. Plus, if you leave it open-ended, it doesn't show your cards of what you're willing to pay up to. Very rarely, but some agents feel, hey, if you just show me your cards, you're willing to pay $535 for the property. I don't care that the other highest offer is $530 for this property. I'm going to counter you directly at the $535, and I'm not going to show you proof of that other offer on the table. So it's unlikely that that'll happen, but it is possible. I can share with you an example of escalation clause verbiage if you like. You'll see like it's based on, you need to show us proof of the other bona fide offer, and it's a net offer. So like if the buyer's offering $530 but wants $5,000 in concessions towards their closing costs, which is it's unheard of in this market right now, but let's say they did, then the escalation clause is based on the net offer after concessions. So appraisal gap we talked about, that's a willingness to pay a certain amount over the purchase price. And you'll see oftentimes it's the appraisal gap that wins. This is not accurate. It is actually $20,000. Here we go. So yeah, it's the appraisal gap that wins most of the time in this market. So net escalation clause we just talked about. Inspection verbiage. A lot of times a seller's like, great, you're going to offer me $50,000 over asking price, but then are you going to nickel and dime me and try to get the price back down after you've completed inspections? And so buyers right now, to be competitive, you'll see it's in 100% of these offers. There's verbiage saying it's only as is, or we can terminate. We're not going to ask you for any repairs. In a normal market, that's crazy. I mean, what if something major health and safety pops up? Well, in this market, then you can get out of the contract and get your earnest money back, or you can choose to buy it as is. Other times in a more normal market also, we pre-agree. We're only going to bring up health and safety issues. In some cases, it's health and safety issues costing $1,000 or more for each individual item, or $1,500 or $2,000 or more for each individual item. And other times it's just, we're going to leave this open. We're not going to nickel and dime on cosmetic stuff, but we do want the opportunity to bring up anything we want that's health and safety related for credits or repairs prior to closing. Here it shows what our client was, whether they were a seller or a buyer. You see we represent about almost 50-50 right now, which is great because it gives us hints on all the crazy, cool, clever verbiage in different offers from literally hundreds of other agents. Because you'll see we're getting, in one case, 33 offers, 25 offers on our seller listings. And that's why also you see these blanks. If it's a blank, it means because we're representing a buyer and we don't know how many, or we don't know how many offers were on the table. Sometimes we'll ask the seller, hey, how many offers were we competing against? But not every time. Also, number of showings. We know this number of showings because these are our sellers. But with buyers, unless we ask or unless the seller's agent is willing to share that information, we don't know how many showings there were on the property. And then this other, some agents right now, including us, are getting a little clever. What we're saying is, the buyer or the seller has literally thousands of dollars typically in expenses covering some of the buyer's closing costs, like the title insurance policy, which could cost a seller thousands of dollars. So what buyers are doing to sweeten the pot and also offset the fact that the net proceeds is based on what it appraises for, is that the buyer is saying, well, we'll offer $2,000 towards the seller's closing costs. That way the seller is netting $2,000 more regardless of what it appraises for. Because you'll see, let's go to an example. Here's an example. $495 was the asking price. $560 was the winning purchase price, and a $20,000 appraisal gap. It appraised for $538. And so our client pre-agreed to paying $20,000 over the appraised value. That's $558. And I called the agent and I'm like, hey, it didn't appraise. Based on the appraisal gap, my buyer is willing to pay $558 for the property. Can your seller come down $2,000? They didn't ask for any repairs. They're paying $20,000 over what an appraiser thinks the house is worth. And the seller was like, yeah, let's just get it done. Of course they will. They better. This is the nature of the market. In fact, I'll tell you, this client in Parker, they were also looking at another house in Highlands Ranch that they fell in love with. That house in Highlands Ranch, I followed up with the agent after it had gone under contract to see what it went under contract for and how many offers. The house in Highlands Ranch went under contract for $100,000 more than asking price, and there were 22 offers on the table. I asked what the appraisal gap was that won it, and he didn't answer the question. So it's a crazy world out there, and then all of a sudden things like this, like, oh, you're offering $65,000 over asking price and you win it. That's a better deal than offering $100,000 over asking price and possibly paying $20,000 of an appraisal gap or more. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm not saying that you have to do any of this, but I am telling you, if the property, it's the first weekend or second weekend and there's, more offers on the table than just yours, you're going to have to get comfortable with this kind of environment to compete. Otherwise, I might suggest waiting until the future when we have more inventory and less competition to enter this crazy market that we're in. Another solution is to look for new construction or to narrow your search down to homes that have been on the market for more than 2 weeks, probably because the condition isn't great or that it's overpriced, which wouldn't be such a bad thing. And because then we can come in and offer a reasonable price, or we have a little bit of leverage on the contract. And another thing to consider is prices just keep going up, and so it's not, in my opinion, it's not likely that there's going to be a market crash or go down. I think it'll level out at some point because this isn't sustainable. So if you do wait for the future, you'll end up just paying more money for the house, and interest rates might be a little higher, but you won't be subjected to this craziness. So it's up to you. You can make the educated decision. We're just here to inform you and empower you and equip you to do just that. I hope you found this video valuable. I'm sure the spreadsheet that you're looking at now is going to look different from this. It includes this and more closings that we'll have. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.